Yeah, so right now it's right around, I don't know, 2:30 or so p.m. on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. And I spent the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 days intensely preparing for a series of professional job interviews that are kind of urgent because I need a job. And my most recent temporary sales position just ended this past week. So, one of the things that people don't like to hear is that poor boundaries and an ineffective way of dealing with rejection basically demonstrate someone's mental health issues. I verifiably do not have mental health issues, and that's a scientific and medical fact. People can look up my medical records and will not find any history of psychiatric issues, crises, problems, and none of my doctors have ever thought that I was crazy. I see doctors on a regular basis for physical issues, and none of them ever in my entire life have said, oh, maybe you need to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Not the same thing, though. Not one physician that I have ever seen in my entire life, including chiropractors and physical therapists, with which you have to function, right? If you see a chiropractor, you have to be functional and normal and cooperate with the treatment. None of them have ever thought I was crazy. So, proof of the pudding is that there's no scientific or medical evidence that I have any mental health issues. I don't. And proof of that, again, is how you deal with rejection. So I have been rejected many times in my life, starting with when I was little and wanted to be an Olympic gymnast. I also wanted to be a ballerina and did a lot of auditioning and performing when I was young in dance and gymnastics. When you compete and when you audition, you get used very quickly to dealing with rejection. You're not always going to be number one. You're not always going to make the audition, right? And just now, today, I am dealing with some pretty rude and blatant rejection. Am I letting it affect me? No, I shouldn't. Most of the time, rejection is not about you. It's about what the other person wants for themselves, and you're just not quite fitting the bill. On a professional level, when you spend days preparing for some pretty intense and thorough interviews and you provide the potential employer with lots of resumes, lots of information, you take the time to contact references, you come up with lists of references. These are people that you've worked with in the past and who you trust to give an accurate and complete breakdown of the work that you did for them. When you provide a potential employer with all of that information, and they do not have the professional respect or courtesy to get back to you about that, then you need to walk away, right? That is not an employer that you want to work for. When they can't even get back to you about the information you've sent them and about an interview that you just had with them, they don't even have the politeness to say, hey, thanks for your time, we'll be in touch or whatever. It takes like 5 minutes to send something like that. When they can't do that, then you need to have the self-respect to walk away. And I've always had some very healthy self-respect, professionally and personally, that have allowed me to walk away very easily and very quickly from any person, group, employer, or other situation that does not give me the respect and consideration that any basic human level of functioning would require, right? So when employers require an applicant to provide all kinds of information and to come in for interviews that last almost 2 hours, and then they can't respond, they can't simply say, thank you for your time, then maybe you should walk away. Maybe that is not an employer that you want to work for, even if you need a job, which I do. I'm not taking that rejection personally because the bad behavior is not on my part, it's on their part. If they had questions about anything in the 4 resumes that I sent them, maybe they can reach out and be professional and courteous about it. But simply, slamming the door in someone's face and not responding and not getting back to them is sub-professional behavior. So, they're doxing their own lack of professionalism, their own rudeness, the fact that they can't treat applicants like human beings who, are entitled to consideration and politeness, if nothing else. Professionalism, courtesy, and politeness in the professional interviewing arena are kind of critical. And the interviewing goes both ways. So obviously, if you're an applicant, you need a job or you want a job. If you're an employer and you're interviewing applicants, you need a applicant. So if either of those parties does not treat the other one with courtesy, professionalism, and politeness, then the bad is on the party who does not behave in a professional and courteous manner. And slamming the door in someone's face and refusing to respond to their the information that they send in, that's just not professional. So I don't need that. I'm walking away, and I have just submitted applications for 10 other jobs. And I'm cleaning. So my place is a bit of a mess because I spent the last 5 days preparing for this interview. So I'm going to clean. Cleaning is a very, I'd say, functional and healthy coping mechanism for anything. I mean, you need a clean environment anyway, right? So when you get rejected, as I have, clearly, a lack of response on the email front is a blatant rejection. It's also a rude rejection and an extremely unprofessional rejection. Any level of professionalism would simply require that an employer say, hey, thank you for your time. We've gone with another applicant, or we don't quite think that you fit. There's nothing wrong with that. Anybody can understand that. Anyone who is professional and has been through quite a few cycles of interviewing and applying and doing the whole circuit of interviewing and applying can understand when an employer says, hey, you don't quite fit our requirements, but hey, we wish you luck, right? If they can't do that, then they are sub-professional and substandard in their approach to treating their applicants. So I'm going to keep cleaning. I'm going to keep applying for many other positions because I have a few degrees that allow me to do that and a few areas of expertise that allow me to do that. And any kind of false information out there will come to light. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of false information out there on the internet. And again, any employer that is worth working for will take the time to ask you questions about things that might come up, like red flags. I don't have any red flags as far as I know. I've never been arrested. I've never been charged with a crime. I've never been almost arrested. I've never, ever been charged with a crime. I do not have a psychiatric history. So if that kind of stuff is out there on the internet, and it could be, I mean, anybody can post anything about you on the internet. It doesn't mean it's true. Then any employer that is worth working for and that knows how to treat their applicants humanely will ask you if they'll say, hey, something came up, but it doesn't seem consistent with your professional history or whatever. Do you have time to explain this to us? Because we found something that looks a little weird about you, right? They would do that. When an employer fails to do that, you do not want to work for them. So I'm just going to keep cleaning. Got a ton of dishes to wash, hanging up some clothes. The window's open because there's been a psycho nut job slamming and banging things in the bathroom behind this wall and smoking marijuana all day. And it's not maintenance because maintenance does not smoke marijuana when they're on the job. But the same piece of shit sex offender, psychopath, and mentally disturbed psychotic stalker named Jasmine Irizarry does. She constantly smokes stuff and has a extensive 11-year history of propagating and generating sickening, overpowering, nauseating amounts of foul-smelling smoke from the area directly behind this wall, which is the vacant bathroom of Unit 78 that the Greenville Group has been keeping deliberately vacant and empty for 3 years now. Why would a legitimate real estate management company that is not engaging in, false and fraudulent business practices keep a large unit with its own bathroom vacant and empty for 2 years or 3 years now, while permitting the former resident, a sex offender and psychopath named Jasmine Irizarry, who was in the sex offender registry in 2017, to continually access the permanently unrented, suspiciously vacant premises of her former unit that is as close as she can possibly get to your own unit? Why would they do that if they are indeed a legitimate real estate company, which the Greenville Group isn't? Well, your guess is as good as mine on that subject, folks. When the Greenville Group praises the criminal abilities of a mentally disturbed, obsessive psychopath named Jasmine Irizarry, who is constantly engaging in the same exact, repetitive, identical pattern of aggressive harassment from behind the wall of a vacant unit that the real estate company that owns this building is keeping conveniently vacant and empty, then you can bet that the psychopath and the real estate company are in bed with each other, maybe even literally. They refuse to do anything about her behavior because it serves their purposes, even if her behavior is psychotic and disturbed and their purposes are nefarious, which they are. They refuse to do anything about her behavior. So then I have to go to court and file restraining orders against both parties, which I will do. When I'm done sending in a few more applications for the many jobs that I actually qualify for, and when I'm done cleaning this unholy mess of an apartment right now.